The other thing I wanted to react to was this. If there's one thing people should know about me, is that I love Berserk. House of the Dragon, I liked it. It came out the same time that Rings of Power came out, and it was like a whole head-to-head clash of Rings of Power fans versus House of the Dragon fans, and I kind of sided more on the Rings of Power side, and everyone else I knew kind of sided more on the House of the Dragon side, so I was kind of in the minority on that one. But above all, as far as dark fantasy is concerned, like, Berserk is my shit. I have a video, it was one of the first videos I did for this channel when I relaunched it, about, someone on Quora was asking about, like, their 13-year-old watching Berserk. And I was like, oh my God, no, do not let your 13-year-old watch Berserk. Like, it is decidedly not for kids. And even beyond the kid thing, like, I can't recommend that show to anyone because the themes of it are just so fucking intense. Sexual assault plays a very prominent role in the story and in the narrative, and in the development of characters even. So for that reason, and some pretty grisly images, I can't very freely recommend the show to people. But I do let them know. I'll tell them the two things. The two things I tell them are, it's one of my favorite things ever, but I can't recommend it. So I let them explore on their own, And if they get disturbed by anything, then it's like, hey, I told you I didn't recommend it. What can I say? You let your own curiosity get the best of you there. But ComicbookGirl19, or DanikiaXIX, as she calls herself on Twitch and Instagram and Twitter, I think too. She's rebranded everywhere but YouTube. I like her takes. Like, I discovered her years ago when she was doing those Game of Thrones videos, and she did some pretty amazing Game of Thrones videos back then. And then she did some even better X-Men ones, and like those are like my two fandoms right there. So I've been all about her. She stopped doing YouTube content for a little while, started doing more streaming, movie watch-alongs, and I haven't been paying attention too much to those. But she just dropped this a little while ago, and I am very curious to hear her take on both of these properties.
My beautiful babies, today on the show, we're talking about the dark medieval fantasy series loved by millions of people around the world. Known for its graphic violence, explicit sex scenes, twisted political plots, epic betrayals, and huge flying beasts.
Oh, hell yeah! It's hot D time! House of the Dragon!
Oh, wait, no. I was talking about Berserk. Look, Berserk introduced a supremely ambitious, platinum-haired conqueror who will stop at
Griffith.
nothing to have their own kingdom way before Game of Thrones was on the scene.
Please tell me you at least watched the show, Danika.
Yeah, I watched it, and at first it was more of a hate watch thing, but then later I kind of got into it. But I feel like
I'm happy that she says that, because I never hate watched House of the Dragon. I'll tell you that much. I always generally liked it, but for the most part, I did think the show was pretty mid. Like, there were some moments that were great. Like, I never got into any of the characters the way that I did with the original Game of Thrones, with the exception of Paddy Considine's King Viserys. Viserys was so excellently done on that show. Written, performed, everything about it was phenomenal. He embodied like so much personality, and was such a likable person, that when you get to that moment in episode 9, like the penultimate moment really, where Viserys is shambling to the throne, like the families are arguing, then he comes in and he's shambling to the throne. That is such a heart-wrenching scene. It is so heart-wrenching, and his performance just through and through, like, Paddy Considine needs an Emmy. He needs an Oscar for that. I know Oscars are for movies more so than not for TV, but they should carve out an exception for him just for that one. He did an excellent job, and he made the show watchable for me, honestly. I know people talk about Matt Smith, and he was fine. I mean, he was generally just broody. He was just broody and kind of smirked in the corner for most of the time, and like there's I guess there's value to that too. I can't talk too much shit. I mean, I like Geralt of Rivia, so Matt Smith was good for that, for what it was worth, but it didn't have. He never really brought like more beyond that to me, I guess, than what Patty did for Viserys. And their relation was great, and I love the scenes that they shared. Like the chemistry they had back and forth was amazing. They had better chemistry than Viserys and his niece, damn, I forget the character's name. Matt Smith's character, him and his niece, their chemistry was kind of shaky in my view, but that's just me. There are t-shirts and sweaters and shit of the uncle niece incest, on full display that people are out there fucking rocking, and if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. Didn't do anything for me though.
The Dragon is just okay. I wasn't blown away by it.
I agree.
What I am currently blown away by is Berserk.
But the people are begging you to break Hot D down. Talk about the lore. Do like an epic history or something. Anything.
Fuck it. You're right. Let's talk about House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is a prequel series taking place about 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones. It's based on George R.R. Martin's novella, The Princess and the Queen.
He's never going to finish this series.
The end of the white-haired Valyrian rulers of Westeros.
And before you watched it, how did you feel about the show, Danica?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I was really bummed out at first on watching this show, and it's entirely due to the fact that Game of Thrones fucked up their ending.
There are so many people that feel that way. There are so many people that are like, they hated the way Game of Thrones ended so much that it carried, like, I don't know if Dan and Dave have done any work since that show. I think I may have looked this up. I may have looked this up a while ago. I think they're doing Netflix stuff right now. I think they had a Netflix deal. You don't hear their names at all like you did back then, obviously. Let's see. D.B. Weiss has been a director of the Leslie Jones Time Machine TV special. Co-directed with David Benioff. So they did that together. The Chair. He is an executive producer of The Chair. The Chair is an American comedy drama streaming television series. Okay. It's on Netflix. Okay, so they did two things since Game of Thrones. The Chair and Leslie Jones comedy special. And I guess they did a movie called Metal Lords. Is this a Netflix movie? Metal Lords, American teen comedy drama, written by D.B. Weiss and directed by Peter Sollett. Okay, so D.B. Weiss wrote and produced this. Looks like Dave had nothing to do with it. Music by the dude that did the music for Game of Thrones. So it looks like he's done at least three things. What has David Benioff been up to? He was a writer for Gemini Man. Okay, that Will Smith movie. So he wrote Gemini Man in 2019, and then Leslie Jones Time Machine, The Chair. So they both have done basically three things, none of which really got any prominence. I guess Gemini Man is the most prominent thing they've done since Game of Thrones, or the most prominent thing one of them has done since Game of Thrones. They've fallen off, man. They've fallen off in an epic way. People hated that finale so intensely that, my roommate, he was talking about how he didn't want to watch the show. Like, he hated the idea of it. He didn't want to, like, the entire franchise was ruined for him because of the way that it ended. And I was always like, for starters, yeah, it was a bad way to end the show, but I didn't dislike it nearly as much as everybody else did. I just thought it was like, all right, well, that just kind of petered out. That wasn't, but I guess maybe I didn't. No, that's not true. I was a huge fan. I was a huge fan. I was going to say maybe I didn't have the devotion to the franchise as other people, but that's not true. I did. I just, I guess the letdowns don't affect me that much. The letdowns don't quite affect me that much. That doesn't mean that I was looking forward to House of the Dragon. I met it also with a resounding mid when they were announcing it and talking about all the other Game of Thrones spinoffs they want to do. But it wasn't so much because like, oh, the show just ended so awfully, it put a bad taste in my mouth. Like it just didn't sound very interesting to me. And it still doesn't, honestly. And even after watching it, my interest has only ticked up a little bit. So I guess that's maybe the difference between me and other people. But I really didn't think that the ending of Game of Thrones was worthy of, like, I'm not saying it was good, and I'm not saying it wasn't bad. I don't think it was worthy of the intense levels of animus that it's generated since. Like, it's kind of out of control, honestly. And I don't know if I certainly don't think it's bad enough to have, I don't want to say it's blacklisted Dave and Dan, because they are still working. They have their Netflix deal still. But you sure as shit don't hear about them anymore. They aren't the golden kids of Hollywood the way that they were, during, let's say, seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones. And a little bit of 5.
So bad, and I still feel so betrayed by it that I have a hard time putting my faith in these showrunners that they're gonna.
She was also a really big fan of Daenerys, though, and I feel like a lot of that hate comes from the hardcore Daenerys fans. And to me, Daenerys' arc was the only one that made sense. Like, there are so many character arcs in that show that just kind of went in weird directions. Jaime suddenly going back with Cersei at the very end. It's like, what the fuck was that all about? Like, there are so many other things that I was just like, oh, this is weird. Arya being the one that kills the Night King, like, kind of cutting off Jon Snow's arc, at the knees, and it's like, well, now what's the purpose of this dude? What about all the Prince that was promised stuff? Like, it was just a whole weird thing. Like, but her arc was the only one in my view that actually made the most sense. It was like, yeah, it was inevitable that it was going to lead to this. Like, she was hardcore from the jump. And she only became more hardcore with every tragedy that she faced along the way. It started with her brother losing his mind, and then Drogo, killing him, and her brother was abusive to her, hella abusive to her. And then it escalated when Drogo died himself, and then she burned the witch alive, and then her dragons were kidnapped, and she burned all the wizards at that tower in Karth, I think, and it just escalated from there. She locked all the calls after she killed all the slavers, and went hardcore there, locked all the calls in a hut and burned them all. And like, she's always been super fucking hardcore. Like, her inclination is to burn the living shit out of everything. And so it was only natural that when she reached the moment of coming face to face with the physical manifestation of all the bullshit she's been forced to deal with all her life, and like what it looks like to see a city that's betrayed her, in her mind, the city that betrayed her family, that forced her to walk this grisly path, and these people that they bow to her usurpers and all of that. Like, of course it was going to lead to her committing war crimes. It was only ever going to lead to that. And maybe the whole Jon Snow killing her at the end was kind of clunkily done, but what can I say? I feel like that was also going to be a thing. They were never gonna live happily ever after and have a bunch of little kids for whatever reason. It just felt like that wasn't going to be the case. I think sometimes when people lionize someone in their mind, and then that person takes a path that they should have expected but for whatever reason didn't, that causes them to see things unclearly, and I feel like the Daenerys thing is an example of that.
Lead me somewhere that's going to be glorious in the end. And I felt like I was just getting back into a toxic relationship where I'm just going to get burned. So
ironic.
I'm consuming this media with a 1 foot in, 1 foot out mentality, and I'm keeping my expectations very low.
And now, how do you feel about the show after seeing it?
Well, for starters, I really can't stand that goofy-ass MC Escher intro. It's nonsensical. It's totally ridiculous.
It's not.
It symbolizes the bloodlines.
I know what it symbolizes. I'm just saying it's a stupid concept. Nobody knows what those little symbols on those weird little knobs means. And even if you did
Well,
know,
it's
they're not
supposed
on
to be
screen
Easter
long enough. You
egg-esque.
can see what they are.
We can't even see
If you need
these two
people to
shits.
make YouTube videos to explain what your intro means, then guess what? Your concept isn't effective. The Game of
That
Thrones
is-
intro.
I think that is a true statement. I guess she's going to talk about it here, but I was just going to say that the first Game of Thrones intro is pretty on the nose. It's just a map of Westeros, and it shows you the locations that the show travels to in that given episode. So if they're going to be in Marine that episode, then on the intro map, the camera will swoop past Marine. Or if they're going to be in Winterfell, then on the intro map, the camera will swoop past Winterfell. It shows you like the development, where territorial boundaries change or where troop movements go, and like the intro is more than just an introduction in the first Game of Thrones show. The intro also kind of shows you, okay, this is the current state of this world. This is where we're going to take you as you come into this journey on this episode. And it looks cool.
Was really excellent. It's one of the best intros I've seen. It was this beautiful map of the world,
King's Landing,
showing you where all the different keeps are and the great houses who live in them. It was fun. It was educational. The animation was gorgeous, but this, it's a mess. And I also wish House of Dragon would get their own theme music instead of using Game of Thrones theme.
I agree with that statement.
Pavlovian hype response from the audience.
I agree with that statement.
Maybe they learned that trick from you, using your old theme music in your new show.
Whatever. Another issue I'm having with this show is that there are too many characters with similar sounding names.
I agree with
We've
this
got
statement.
3 Aegon Targaryens.
That's true. I got
2
confused.
Viserys. We've
Got
got a
confused there.
Daemon, an Aemond.
Daemon, that's his name.
Rhaenys, Rhaenyra.
There's an
Rhaena,
Aemon and an Aegon.
Rhaena, Laenor.
Like 3
Oh,
Aegons.
you sound like such an old person right now.
Speaking of aging, the aging up of actors on this show is all over the place.
I don't think
get
so.
That Viserys has leprosy.
I don't think
show
so.
Is
Well, for starters, I think that Rhaenyra, the 2 actresses that play her that's an awesome job. That is just definitionally an awesome job. This is not bad. This isn't bad. This, I can see it too. I mean, aging up characters by way of 2 actors is a tricky kind of ordeal. I've seen it done way worse than this for certain, but I don't think this is a definition of. I don't think this is a good example of a failure in that. So I kind of disagree with that take.
all over the place. I get that Viserys has leprosy or whatever, but he goes from being a middle-aged man to the fucking crypt keeper. Meanwhile, Kristen Cole does not age a goddamn
That's true.
day.
That's very true, and I
How
made that
hard would
point
it be
too.
To just give him a beard.
Give him some
Grow
gray hair.
gray in his hair.
Yeah.
At least with Daemon, they gave him different wigs to denote the passing of time, even though that's still super lazy. Like, at least they tried.
Uh-oh, here we go. All aboard the complaint train.
You're telling me it took 2 years to kill a crab guy with really bad psoriasis when they have 2 dragons? The costuming has really fallen off. Damon's stupid dragon helmet is totally unforgivable. It looks like something from World of Warcraft's completely. And Laenor and Rhaenyra should have tried a lot harder to have kids. Is normalizing uncle-niece incest morally responsible? Is this
No.
show going to encourage weird uncles to molest their nieces? These are the
I would hope.
questions.
I would
Even
hope
if
not.
Viserys did want his Aegon on the throne, which he didn't, it's too fucking late.
Oh, there it is. Team Black confirmed. Danica is Team Black. I totally knew that you were gonna back the princess. Everyone knew it. We all saw it.
Ugh, and Rhaenys fucked up so hard. You're telling me that
That's-
she has no problem
Killing
hundreds
all of those
peasants,
people.
smushing them
Yes.
with her dragon,
Yes.
but then she's not-
She killed all of those people in her fucking Yas Queen intro on her dragon, and all she did to the royal family was just sneer at them. I'm gonna give you a haughty sneer, and then fly off. It's like, meanwhile, you just murdered hundreds of innocent people. It's like, go the extra half an inch further and you know, Dracarys these motherfuckers. Like it was absurd, made no sense, and made the character unlikable. Like literally slaughtered all of these people right here. Like they're just having a good time. There's a new king, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're still gonna be fucking, you know, mining for turds and flea bottom or whatever they do down there. They're just trying to have a good time. It's the only time they get to take a break from their work and have a little bit of a celebration. Let them have their fun. But she just fucking
no problem killing hundreds of peasants, smushing them with her dragon, but then she's not gonna roast the traitors usurping the throne? She could have saved Westeros from a bloody civil war. She could have saved thousands of lives, but no, it wasn't her war to start. It's like, bitch, you wouldn't have been starting a war. You would have been ending one. You would have nipped it in the bud. It would have been done.
And that's why
Very
I'm
dumb
Team
scene.
Green, D. You see, women have soft hearts and really shouldn't be in positions of power. We need a man on the Iron Throne.
Oh yeah, because Viserys did such a great job. Don't get me wrong. I love Viserys.
How can you not?
He is
How could you
trying
not?
so hard to be a good man and do the right thing, but it's these very attributes that make
It's Ned Stark.
a bad king.
It's Ned Stark.
I love the irony of his moniker, Viserys the Peaceful. He was named Peaceful because his reign was prosperous, there were no major wars, everything was stable, but it is his blunders as a father and as a husband that lead to this bloody civil war where all the people he loves are gonna try to kill each other. I mean, what a sad, epic fail. Viserys is definitely the most compelling character in the series for me.
By a country mile.
Patty Considine
He needs an
did a
Emmy.
Great
He needs
job
an Emmy.
in the role. It is an A+ tragic character arc. And that scene where he's at the end and he gets his family all together and they're eating dinner and he gets to see
That's a
them
great
getting
scene, too.
along for one moment before it all goes back to shit is so well done. House of the Dragon certainly got better as the story progressed. And personally, I gravitate to stories that focus on characters and their interpersonal relationships, and that's what this is. It's a big old fucked up royal family drama.
Yeah. I loved the tension when we find out that King Viserys has no male heirs, and we see that he's literally starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and like as he's falling apart, so is his kingdom. I loved that.
Oh no, I was gonna say, and then he has to choose which kid to fuck? His daughter's teen bestie or the child he's related to? What a choice!
Personally, I appreciate all of the birthing horror in this series. Like in that first episode,
I got the
where
sense that,
baby is stuck
yeah.
and Viserys chooses to have the Meister cut the baby.
This show was definitely written by people who, I don't want to say, they didn't want to glamorize pregnancy and childbirth the way that it so often is in media. They definitely wanted to show that for women in an era where healthcare, you know, isn't a thing, pregnancy can be a death sentence, which unfortunately became a apropos message in America post Supreme Court ruling. But yeah, I just got the vibe that, you know, that was definitely a intentional message that the writers were trying to portray.
Out without anesthesia, and his wife's last moments are totally horrific, and then the baby dies anyways. It was so visceral. And it's extremely fucked up that this is a real thing that actually happens. Game of Thrones was known for showing these really brutal depictions of the battlefield. And I really appreciate that House of the Dragon is going out of its way to show the battle of the birthing bed. Mad respect.
Yeah, there's like 3 broads dealing with this gnarly childbirth shit. It's disgusting. Personally, I hate it. These are women's issues. Okay, this should be done behind closed doors. We should never talk about it.
You're telling me that you didn't think it was cool when Lena's baby got stuck and she chose death by dragon and set herself on fire? That was crazy. And then later, when Rhaenyra got really stressed and she gave premature birth to a deformed dragon baby with an umbilical cord wrapped around its neck? Whoa. And speaking of people giving premature birth to deformed demon babies,
boy, here we go.
let's talk about Berserk. Berserk isn't about Vikings, it's about guts. A lone warrior who was born of a hanged corpse on a battlefield and raised as a mercenary who becomes a wandering swordsman until he meets his match and nipped it in the
Oops,
bud.
damn it. I didn't mean to click on that part. I just want to do a quick little scan. Oh, she mentions Hellraiser. That's funny. She posted the thumbnail for this episode on her Instagram, and I commented on it that I always thought that the Behelit in Berserk was homage to the puzzle box in Hellraiser, and I didn't know that she made that reference. Just making sure. There's a lot of stuff in Berserk that is like, would be TOS worthy. So I just want to make sure that none of that is going to be sneaking in here.
A lone warrior who was born of a hanged corpse on a battlefield and raised as a mercenary who becomes a wandering swordsman until he meets his match in Griffith, the beautiful and charismatic leader of the Band of the Hawk who dreams of acquiring his own kingdom. With Guts as captain of the Raiders, the Band of the Hawk rises to the top through their conquests during Midland's 100-year war with the Tudor Empire, until things go horribly wrong.
Like how wrong? Ugh.
Really, really wrong. You'll never guess how wrong. This series is part Mad Max, part Fist of the North Star, part Conan the Barbarian, with heavy Hellraiser influences. There's also cute Star Wars references, definitely some Venom-type business, plus nods to Brian De Palma's Phantom of the Paradise and Ken Russell's The Devils. There's even a
I'm not familiar with that other one, Phantom of the Paradise. That is definitely a Griffith. Phantom of the Paradise. I'm going to have to look into that.
Palma's Phantom of the Paradise and Ken Russell's The Devils. There's even a dash of one of my personal favorites, The Rose of Versailles. Berserk started in 1989 in the pages of Monthly Animal House and has gone on to inspire a number of A-plus shows and video games, such as Attack on Titan, Re:Zero, Final Fantasy VII, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and many, many more. It is one of the best-selling manga series of all time, and Dark Horse has been putting out these super sexy, oversized 7x10 deluxe editions.
Well, I'm going to have to look for that right this very second. And I do want a physical copy of Berserk because I've only ever read it digitally, like online. And I really would like to have it physically. Although I will also say, when I was reading Berserk, every time I would read it and then go to bed, I would have nightmares. It always gave me nightmares, which is weird because nothing else gives me nightmares. No horror movie gives me nightmares or anything like that. But reading Berserk right before bedtime, for whatever reason, always did the trick. So maybe I don't need a physical copy nearby.
And I'm really excited for Volume 12, which is coming out December 27th. It's coming up soon.
12
And
volumes.
13
She
is
said
currently
she said
scheduled
600
for March of
pages.
2023.
This
Jeez,
dude.
How many fucking volumes are there gonna be?
That's a great question. I wonder if Volume 14 will just collect volumes 40 and 41 with Mira's final Berserk, or if they're gonna wait to add the new stuff. Because each one of these volumes has 3 volumes inside it.
Wait, what do you mean Mira's final volume of Berserk?
Volume 41 is the last Berserk by Kentaro Miura, who sadly passed away in 2021.
Wait a minute. You're trying to sell me on an unfinished story after you've been complaining about George R.R. Martin not working on Winds of Winter fast enough for you? Is that right? Is that what you're doing?
This is what I'm worried about. Kentaro Miura died suddenly of a heart malfunction at 54. George R.R. Martin is 74.
Oh my god, that's rude. Anyways, I thought you were little Miss Leave George alone.
Look, creative work takes as long as it takes, and I get that. But it's not like he's been focusing on Winds of Winter.
It's
George
never
keeps
coming
going on
out.
all these television
It's
side
never coming
quests, and
out.
it's like Stop with the side quests, bro, and finish the main story. Writing a novel is hard, and you have to spend a lot of time alone in a room in front of a computer. It's not fun. And as a human, I get that George is getting fat paid. And as a human,
George R. R. Martin says if The Winds of Winter isn't out by July 29th, 2020, fans can imprison him. Man, I mean, don't say that, dude. Someone's going to take that seriously. Jeez. I wonder if that's legally binding.
I get that George is getting fat paid to do a lot less work on these shows. He gets to hang out with people, meet actresses and actors, travel around the world, go to cool parties, go to award shows. He's made it. And that's fantastic. That's wonderful. But as an artist, I would feel bad if I left millions of people around the world hanging because I didn't finish my magnum opus before my time was up.
Oh, it's kind of like how people want you to finish your Cyclops video and do part 2. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, seriously,
We're not talking about me. We're talking
I've been waiting for that Cyclops Part 2 video for
People want you
fucking
to finish your
forever.
Cyclops-
That, like, okay, and this is as somebody who is a fan of Cyclops. I like Cyclops. And I loved that she actually made that video that was like, you know, this is Cyclops is the quintessential X-Men. It's like, yes. And I was a big fan of that, but she never did the Part 2. So I was like, what the fuck? Where's Part 2? We have to make sure people recognize that Cyclops isn't like the bootlicking teacher's pet that people seem to think he is. Like, quite the opposite, really. He's more of a psycho than Wolverine is, but she didn't get to that part of the equation, I don't think. I'll have to rewatch that video, but it was a great video. Like, again, I got into her from her Game of Thrones videos and her X-Men videos.
Video and do part 2. Oh, yeah, okay.
We're not talking about me. We're talking about George R. R. Martin. And if I were him and I were struggling, I would hire an underwriter to help me. And I would also make an outline and then prepare it to where if things went wrong, they could take over, like Sanderson did for Robert Jordan with the Wheel of Time series. This has been done before. There's a precedent.
So is Berserk getting an ending or what?
Yes, Berserk is getting an ending. It is being...
Berserk will return and be completed, supervised by Miura's best friend. Koji Mori will supervise the manga created by Studio Gaga. Berserk returns on June 24th, 2022. Okay, cool. See, I was unaware of that. I was unaware that it already came back. But that's great. That's cool. I don't know if this dude has written anything else, but...
Continued by Koji Mori and Miura's assistant.
Holy yes, I didn't even realize who she was. I was watching Comic Book Girl a while back, but dropped off. I didn't recognize her with the GOT hairdo. Yeah, she's awesome. I was a huge fan of her back when Game of Thrones was originally running because, you know, she just did like the absolute best Game of Thrones videos. And that's how I got into her. And then she started doing X-Men videos and I was like, okay, like I am a colossal fan now. Like if you do great videos of Game of Thrones and X-Men, then I don't care what else you do. And everything else she does is great too. She did some great cosplay. She had a little mini show for a while where she talked about sci-fi creators. She talks about Dune. She's a big Dune fan, and that was cool when the Dune movie came out. You know, hearing her go through all the lore and stuff. She's awesome. I'm glad that you're a fan. It's always great to meet fans of creators that I'm fans of. You know. I try to watch her streams on Twitch when I can, but she streams full movies. Like she'll do full movie watch-alongs and like in the middle of the day on like a Saturday or something. It's like, well, I don't necessarily have the time right now to sit here and watch a movie on Twitch, you know, for however many hours. But you know, when I can, I try.
Assistants and apprentices at Studio Gaga.
Sounds like a cash grab to me.
Not even. Koji Mori and Kentaro Miura were friends growing up in high school, and he's a fellow manga artist. Not only that,
He is a manga artist.
Miura was inspired by Mori and put some of his friend's personality traits into the main character of Guts, which makes him the perfect man for this job.
Did not know that.
Mori has
Awesome.
stated that Miura once told him his vision for the series, including the ending, and he has vowed to tell it as faithfully as he can without expanding upon the plot in any way. I trust
True honor.
Studio Gaga
True honor.
and Koji Mori to get it done right.
Look, D.
Maybe
aren't you
and maybe
broke by
he'll
these
actually
expensive-ass
adhere to a
volumes?
schedule.
I can't even read. And even if I did have the money and could read, I don't have the attention span.
Well, if you can read and you can't pay, you can check out the entire series on readberserk.com for free. But if you can't read or you're not interested in reading, you can watch the Berserk anime series.
Oh,
Okay. 3 different versions of this. There's the 1990s Berserk anime, which is awesome. It is awesome. It is just definitively awesome. And I think, personally, it is my preferred adaptation. It only tells the Golden Age arc. But, you know, I am a sucker for old school hand-drawn cell animation. Like, you don't really see that anymore. And Berserk looked great. It carries over. The soundtrack is awesome. Like, the soundtrack has been memed. If you ever heard this track on a meme on TikTok or whatever, when someone is ironically expressing pain or sadness, you know. There's a comment on this where somebody says, I love so much that this is Guts' theme. They could have easily made his theme darker and sinister. We'll get to that a little bit later. But this captures the real Guts, his heart and his emotions, which I agree with. It is a very thoughtful musical interpretation of Guts' personality. So, anyways, that's from the 90s anime. There was also a more recent anime from 2016, I want to say. It's fully CGI. It looks kind of weird. It takes some getting used to. The first season, it's kind of rough to watch visually, but once you do get used to it, it's actually not so bad. The soundtrack for that one is more sinister, not quite so new agey. There are still some really good themes from it, some really good tracks. The 2016 anime takes place after, I forget what they technically call it. I know the Golden Age goes up until when the 5 angels, you know, come and unleash the demons on the earth. And then in this kind of a post-apocalypse scenario, that's where 2016 takes place. The anime, the 1990s anime, the very first episode starts off in that post-apocalypse. But then he flashes back to the Golden Age, which takes up the entire rest of that season. Or that series, really. It's only one season. So the 2016 one takes place entirely after all of that. So it almost serves as like this is picking up where the 90s anime left off. There's some great moments. I think it's only 2 seasons. The second season is definitely better than the first one. And it can be pretty wicked at times. It's pretty awesome. Like, it took some getting used to that animation style, which they use, and this is the third adaptation. The third adaptation, there are 3 movies on Netflix. I think they might still be on Netflix. The movies are also 3D animation, but it's a much, much higher quality than the show. It's nowhere near as jarring or hard to watch. These 3 movies also all cover the Golden Age. So they basically take the story that was told succinctly the story that was told within the 26 episodes of the 1990s anime, and they compress it from 26 episodes to 3 2-hour movies. The word botch job came to mind, but that's way too harsh. It's perfectly watchable. The story's still coherent, but because they're compressing so much into so little time, there is a lot of stuff that's left on the cutting room floor. A lot of character development, a lot of context. If you just want a quick abridged version of the Golden Age arc of Berserk, then those 3 movies are what I recommend. But if you have more time to dedicate to it, watch the 90s anime. And then after watching the 90s anime, watch the 2016 one. They're all good though. You won't be disappointed watching any of them. And I know this sounds like me recommending Berserk after saying numerous times that I can't recommend it, but I'm just saying, if you're going to go against my non-recommendation and seek this out, that is what I would recommend if I were going to recommend it, which I'm not.
Shit, there's an anime? That's what I'm talking about. Why would I fucking read if there's an anime?
The best version is the Berserk anime from 1997 with 25 episodes. It mainly covers the Golden Age arc, and it's coming to Netflix on December 1st. I'm so excited.
I don't think it did, though. I don't think it did, because I heard that before. I heard that, and then I looked it up, and I couldn't find it. It must be, I think maybe like in Europe or something. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see it on here. It must only be like, oh, Monster's on here. Ooh, Monster is another good one. Monster is one I wholeheartedly recommend. But I don't see Berserk on here. So I don't know what this whole it's on Netflix thing is. Like, I'm gonna have to Google what the source of that was. Maybe it's like in Canada or something.
And read all of the terrible takes about it on the internet. What a treat. Then there is the 2012 Berserk movie series. It's also about the Golden Age arc. The animation's not very good. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it's better than the show.
The 97 series. And most recently, there's the 2016 Berserk series, which is on Crunchyroll.
What the fuck is a Crunchyroll?
For the same
yes,
Berserk series, which is on.
That covers my sentiment perfectly. Covers new ground, but the animation is really fucking terrible.
Oh my god, they're raping all these village girls, and then troll babies are bursting out of these girls' bodies. Holy shit!
Yeah.
This comic is nuts. Oh my, Berserk rules. Danica, why didn't you tell me about this earlier?
Trigger warning. Well, that's it.
That's exactly why I say that I can't recommend it to anyone. Like, that's exactly why I say I can't recommend it to anyone. It's brutal. It's brutal. But it is awesome. All right, that was a cool video. I like that. I'm glad she came back onto YouTube. I'm glad she came back onto YouTube. So, I'm here for Berserk, one of the best stories ever told and one of my favorite stories. Thank you for giving it some love, and thank Murai Kentaro for everything. Agreed. Berserk is a modern-day masterpiece and will go down as one of the greatest pieces of graphic storytelling of all time. Agreed. You got it. You asked for it. Come for the House of the Dragon. Stay for Berserk. Updates. Berserk is not available for Netflix for most. This was filmed prior to December 1st. Yeah. That's a bummer. What a tease. I really want to watch it. I gotta find some place to watch it now. 2, I'm wrong about the Berserk movies. They have some wonky scenes here and there, but the animation isn't that bad. Yes, that's what I was saying. That's what I said. Animation's not bad. Better than the 2016 one for certain. It is way better than 2016, which is actually bad. I hadn't watched the 2016 stuff prior to filming, watched it afterwards, and while I appreciate that they stay pretty true to the comic and it covers new ground, big yikes on the animation. Again, the first season of 2016 is rough. It's a tough viewing. But the second season is actually... It's still tough, but it's better. It's a lot better than the first season's animation. So Berserk isn't on Netflix. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. If you liked what you just saw, hit the like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. I'd appreciate it if you did both. They would be very good for the channel and help me build the community here. If you have any kind of comments or opinions or anything like that, by all means drop them in the comments section below. I like engaging with y'all, want to do more of that, so thank you again and see you next time.